What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of the House Show. So in today's episode, we will go into depth of this strata property. As I have discussed on the surface level of this strata property, what is a strata property? You can check out the videos right here. I'll include the video in the cards, so remember to check it out if you are not familiar with what is strata yet. In this video, I'll be discussing about the renovation for this strata property. I believe, as you all know already, a strata property, the owner actually owns a parcel of it only, right? If you were to purchase this strata property, and then since you only own that particular parcel, that particular unit, somewhere outside the unit, which is the balcony, that is a common area and that doesn't belong to you or me. That belongs to the property management. Let's dive into today's topic. For the first step for owners, you have to do before you were to start this renovation work is to apply it from the management. In order for the management to make sure that you are following the renovation laws, not to, for example, not affecting the other residents' safety, etc., etc. If you were to renovate, you were to pay this certain amount of deposit to the management before any renovation work has started. If, let's say, you inform the management that you will complete this entire renovation in 1 year, then you have to complete it in the time period that you told them. Before you seek approval from this management, you would have to seek approval from the relevant authorities as well. What if you did not seek for the approval for these relevant authorities and you directly seek for the so-called approval from this management? Because stated in the Strata Management Regulation 2015, it says that if you were to seek approval from the management actually assumed that you had actually gotten the approval from the relevant authority. So if you did not obtain that approval from the relevant authority, yet you seek for approval from the management, if this issue has been found out by the management, then actually the entire renovation works will need to be cut off immediately. Meaning to say that before you actually seek for the approval from the management, you will need to seek the approval for the relevant authorities in advance. You as the owner to submit the form to seek the approval of renovation from the management. So that means you have attached the approval from the authority and then submit together with the management. So if they say okay, the management says okay, then you can actually commence your renovation works. Any kind of renovation works that has been carried out, that you plan to carry it out, should not has any effects on this structural member support. A structural member support meaning that, or it could be a shear wall, or it could be a load-bearing wall, load-bearing beams, or even load-bearing columns. What is actually those load bearings and shear wall? Just one moment. I'll try my best to explain the shear wall and load-bearing wall to you. Say if today this is a piece of wall and it's what to call it, hollow, am I right? So it's actually empty in the middle. If you were to actually apply the force here on top of it, so the entire thing will actually move to the left or to the right. It's because that they actually can't support it. That is when shear wall comes into place. So if you were to attach a piece of wall here, if you were to apply forces after you have attached this shear wall on one of the sides, then the entire thing actually won't move, as this particular shear wall is actually supporting the entire forces that has been applied on top. While for a load bearing wall, just imagine that if there are two stories, right? This is your separation between the first and the second floor. This is your first and this is the second floor, right? So this is actually the separation of it. And then the marker pen that I'm showing here is actually the load bearing wall. If you were to hack this load bearing wall off during your renovation, then there is actually no support between the first and second floor, and yeah, you can think of the consequences if you were to stay in the long term. Imagine that, right? If you know that you purchased this parcel and then your neighbors who is staying one floor below you, but say if you are 318, then he probably stays 218. So the number comes first is actually the floor number, and then 18 is actually your unit number. So 218 it's your neighbors, which is staying below you, and then you are staying at 318. You are aware that he actually hacks off one of the load bearing wall. If you were to stay in your unit for the entire time, it's actually quite scary, as your entire unit, the load bearing wall has been hacked off, and which means that there is no support anymore, as the support has been hacked off during the renovation of your neighbors. Worst case scenario, if you accidentally hack off that load bearing wall, or either shear wall, or even the pipings, wirings that has been concealed or whatsoever, what can you actually do then? You actually need to fork out the money to actually rebuild the entire thing, and then the management will actually appoint some engineer. Since you have hacked off that load bearing wall and now you have completed it, then the management will actually appoint structural and civil engineer to check, to make sure that all of the standards has been complied, all of the standards has been followed, and to make sure that the people staying above has the support that they needed. You as the owner who accidentally hacks the bearing wall will actually need to bear the cost, from the construction cost to the cost of hiring an engineer to check this particular wall, if the wall that you have rebuilt actually comply with all the standards or not. The walls that you can hack in your parcel is only the non-load bearing wall, whereby it doesn't provide any support to the entire building. So say the walls that you are hacking is actually not the entire column for the entire development, then that is fine, as it is actually built in your parcel only to actually act as a separation. In order to prevent all these things from happening, like accidentally hacking the wrong walls, then you have to pay all the costs, from construction to even hiring an engineer, even though the engineer that you are paying is not someone who you have hired. It's the management who have hired this engineer to check the entire thing that you rebuilt okay or not. So the best way to prevent all these stuff from happening is to get the management approval first, and then ask them in details which wall can you hack off and which wall you shouldn't touch. So all of this issue can be prevented lah. All of the information that I've discussed today is actually under Strata Management Regulation 2015. I'll insert the links below. You guys can actually have a look at the entire Strata Management Regulation 2015. Yes, that comes to an end of this episode again. Thank you very much for watching till the end. If you really learned something from this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and even share it. If you would like to support me, just hit that subscribe button. That will actually mean a lot to me. This is James now here. Thank you for watching, and hopefully to see you in the next one again.